The year was 2000. Akshay Kumar was at an all-time low in his career. Paresh Rawal was doing negative characters and Sunil Shetty was doing action movies. Then came this movie, Hera Fairy, which changed the trajectory of comedy films in Hindi cinema, after which the name Priyadarshan became popular in Bollywood. People love watching comedy films, and it's one of the highest grossing genre at the box office. Hindi cinema has been exploring comedy since the 50s, starting from Johnny Walker and Mehmood being the pioneers in comedy. But after a point, filmmakers started using these actors only for comedic element in the film, which contributed nothing to the story in the film, due to which it became monotonous. Rishikesh Mukherjee started exploring situational comedies in the 70s, with films like Golmaal and Chupke Chupke, which paved the way for situational humor in Hindi cinema. But if there's any director who has explored the various aspects of comedy in Indian cinema, it must be Priyadarshan. Priyadarshan's movies have an unusual storyline. In fact, when you hear the story, you must have felt what is so great about it. But it's the total opposite when you watch his movies. He is the perfect example who makes the best out of the least. A lottery ticket and a dead body, you have Malamal Weekly. Two guys trying to get the same girl, we get Hangama. He has a quirky style of filmmaking. His films have many characters, so there's a great chance of slipping away from the story, but he manages to hold the attention of the audience. He does this by putting his characters in situations where they have to make difficult choices. Rajpal Yadav's character in Hangama is not a funny character. He doesn't has a funny body language, it's the way he reacts to the situation. Priyadarshan doesn't add any characters just for the comedic element. Each and every characters contribute to the story. He develops his characters slowly. They don't just arrive in the scene and start cracking jokes. He gives them enough space. When you see Rajpal Yadav at the start of Hangama, we never expected him to transform this way in the climax. David Dhawan and Priyadarshan were the two filmmakers who were ruling the box office in the early 2000s. But I believe somehow David Dhawan's films have not aged well, whereas on the other hand, Priyadarshan's films have achieved a cult following and is a benchmark in comedy. I believe he is the only director who explored slapstick comedy to its maximum. Physical comedy was not used much in Indian cinema until the arrival of Priyadarshan. Physical comedy is tough. Slipping on a peel of banana with perfect timing is tough. There's a very high probability to overreact in comedy, but he manages to keep the comic timing of the scene very perfect. We have seen a lot of physical comedy in films, but Priyadarshan uses physical comedy with dialogues, which is very unique and difficult because the audience is already enjoying the chaos, and when you stop the chaos, audience might lose interest. In Hangama, there's total chaos in the climax, and Shakti Kapoor uses his gun to stop the chaos. This scene is a great example of physical comedy combined with dialogues.
जिंदगी भर के लिए ऊपर पहुंचा दूंगा। ए हीरो, तुझे गोली क्या मोबाइल से भेजूं क्या? हाथ ऊपर कर, हाथ ऊपर कर।
His films are heavily inspired from Buster Keaton and Laurel and Hardy. Buster Keaton movies are a great example on how to perform physical comedy. Priyadarshan is one of the few directors in world cinema who have been successful in doing physical comedy. What I love the most about his films is that he tries not to repeat himself and always tries his best to come up with innovative and unexpected humor. In Bhagam Bhag, when Govinda says that he hasn't seen the girl and doesn't believe that the girl exists, this is exactly how the audience felt while watching the film, because we don't know whether the person exists. And to this, Akshay Kumar's character responds,
देख, मैंने और सेठ जी ने मुन्नी को देखा है, इसका मतलब मुन्नी जिंदा है।
लेकिन मैंने उसको नहीं देखा ना, इसका मतलब वो नहीं है। और मैंने जिसको नहीं देखा है ना, वो है, ऐसा मैं मानता ही नहीं।
तूने जापान देखा है?
नहीं।
तो मतलब जापान नहीं है?
Now this might sound silly, but this is clever humor because it totally justifies the situation. He is a master at combining various aspects of comedy. He is one of the few filmmakers who have been successful in handling many characters in a movie perfectly. He has a smart way of using more characters in a movie. In Malamal Weekly, when Paresh Rawal is explaining the plan that the person who had died has just won a lottery, everyone from the village hears this and now everyone wants their share of money. Now it's not just a one-man story, but it's a story about the entire village. We know him for making comedy films, but he had tried many other genres apart from comedy and has been successful. His 2008 film Kanjivaram won the National Award and the movie is a cinematic experience. His 1991 Malayalam film Advaityam starring Mohanlal is one of the finest political crime thriller made in Indian cinema. Priyadarshan is criticized for remaking others' films. He has remaked his own as well as others' films. Hera Fairy was a remake of the Malayalam film Ramji Rao Speaking, directed by Siddiq Lal. Quentin Tarantino's first movie, Reservoir Dogs, was inspired from the 1987 Hong Kong film City on Fire, directed by Ringo Lam. Let's see what Tarantino said about it in an interview.
To take something you've seen before, I love it, I respect it, and I'm going to deliver the goods. I'm not just going to be some arty guy going off, but I'm delivering the goods, but I'm also trying to, reinvent it in a way. All right, do something, do it in a much different way you've ever seen before. Like in the case of Reservoir Dogs.
Some scenes from Pulp Fiction was actually inspired from other movies. The famous adrenaline shot sequence was inspired by a documentary, American Boy, a profile of Stephen Prince, directed by Martin Scorsese. Michael Jackson was not the first one to do a moonwalk. It was done long back by many performers. He watched it and reinvented it. He said, "Study the greats and become greater." Priyadarshan did the same thing. He took an idea and made it into his own. He took the core idea from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and made Thalavattam, which is a totally different movie. He presented Thalavattam from a different perspective. The 1965 Hollywood film Boing Boing was a sex comedy. He turned it into a clean comedy and made Garam Masala, which I believe is one of the finest films in the comic genre. He has been trying to make a comeback, but has not been successful. Many old Hindi film directors have become outdated today, and Priyadarshan has been trying hard to make a comeback. There was an honest attempt with the Malayalam film Marikkar, but the movie failed miserably at the box office. It is very important for a filmmaker to stay updated with the current cinema and people's choices. Martin Scorsese is a great example. He's been making films since the 70s and is still relevant today. He made Wolf of the Wall Street when he was 71. He always tries to come up with something new with a different perspective. Bollywood has been making a lot of crime thrillers and suspense films, but have stopped making a good total comedy entertainer. There have been several attempts, but all of them are totally outdated. Priyadarshan's Hangama 2 was totally unbearable. I believe such a story would not work today. I hope Priyadarshan understands this and tries to come up with something innovative along with his quirky style of filmmaking. He was one of the first directors to introduce rich color grading and quality dubbing through his early films in Indian cinema. He was a brand. People never cared who's in the film. If it had the name Priyadarshan, people would definitely go to the theaters to watch the movie. Similar to Christopher Nolan's movies, the audience doesn't care who's starring in the film. He is one of the finest filmmakers in Indian cinema, and we hope he makes a strong comeback. Thank you for watching. Please like the video and subscribe to my channel if you really enjoyed my work. See you soon.